Welcome everybody. Welcome to our trail tutorial, Renovating with the Planet in Mind. It's the third and final of our 3 tutorials for this year's Garra Trail campaign. My name is Andrew Valdar and I am one of the co-founders of Garra Trail, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here with you wherever you all are today watching from. Before I get into things and into the nuts and the bolts of this fantastic session, and before I introduce our wonderful guests, my co-host Barry Du Bois and our guests ELENA Tim Silverwood and KYAL Kara, I would like to start with an acknowledgement of country. So in the spirit of reconciliation, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. And by that, I mean throughout Australia, wherever you're watching and tuning in from, and from whatever lands that you are on. From where we are here at Garra Trail HQ in Sydney, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and also would like to recognise where Tim and ELENA are on Bundjalung country, on the traditional lands of the Gudjing-Burra people. And also where KYAL and Kara are on the Central Coast and Bateau Bay with the Darkinjung country people. I'd like to recognise the traditional custodians, their connections to land, sea and community, and just make special mention of, this is a culture and a people who lived with the planet in mind in everything that they did, and that we can learn a lot from. So we pay our respects to their elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. So here we are, trail tutorial number 3. I'm just going to start with, for those who don't know us, today's event is being organised by Garra Trail. So who is Garra Trail? What is Garra Trail? Well, we are a not-for-profit that's really passionate about the power of individual action and what people can do in simple ways in their life to fight against climate change. So I'm here in Darlinghurst in Sydney at Garra Trail HQ, and on screen is a picture of Bondi Beach. We're not far from where Garra Trail started back there in 2010. And back then it was only in one suburb. And the idea was to get the community together, to have some fun, get to know each other, and stop some stuff going from to landfill with the tagline, don't dump it, sell it. And on screen there is a picture of a map from the very first Garra sale. And I think if you look closely, you can see there was 43 Garra sales registered. Fast forward to now, and I'm really proud to have been a part of a bunch of people who've achieved something really great, with Garra Trail now being a truly national event. And what's so fantastic is that, there's a bunch of us in the office giving it a real crack, but Australians have picked this up and run with it really hard. And over the next 2 weekends, on November 12, 13, 19 and 20, there's over 10,000 Garra sales happening around the country. There's over 2 million items of stuff listed, weird, wonderful. The cupboards, the garages, the shelves, the attics unleash a bunch of wild and wacky stuff, which is absolutely wonderful. And several 100,000 people take part. And together, our amazing community of sellers and shoppers will save well over 1 million kilograms of stuff going to landfill. And it's a powerful and incredible movement. And it's a people-powered movement. So about today and about the trail tutorials. So trail tutorials came about as a result of the pandemic. And what we learned was so good about them was you don't need to shop, or you don't need to sell at a Garra trail to be involved, today. So wherever you're here, it's wonderful to have you here. And today is the final of 3 events that have happened over the last week. These sessions are all about introducing you to some of the fantastically inspirational people we have the absolute pleasure and privilege of working with at Garra Trail and having the opportunity to learn and be inspired by them. We want you to have fun in this session today and to tune in, and hopefully to leave a little bit inspired with some ideas and fresh appreciation for how the small changes we each make in our lives can add up and, and make a massive impact on the planet, on the community, and on, of course, your own well-being. So that's a really long way of saying we encourage you to be as interactive as you want to be, encourage you to ask questions, and you can do that using the Q&A box. And a section of the session today will be dedicated to answering those questions. Carousel Trail is made possible by a bunch of really important organisations to us. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the 100+ councils around the country who support Carousel Trail, that in every state and in every territory across the country. I'd also like to give special mention to our presenting partner, PayPal, who have helped bring some sexy technology to the humble Carousel in the form of QR codes as a way to transact at a Carousel. And I would like to make special mention to our fashion resale partner, Poshmark, which is an online marketplace for secondhand style, but also a great community of people like us that love pre-loved stuff. And finally, last but not least, there is the support of the New South Wales government, and in particular through the New South Wales Environment Protection Authority. So thank you to you guys for making this all possible. I now want to dive into what this session is all about and introduce a guy who I would call a mate, but who's also my co-host today, Barry Du Bois. You might know Barry from the work he's done on The Living Room on Channel 10 over the years, or you might know Barry from the really fantastic work he does building awareness around mental health with the Are You OK Foundation. I know Barry is a guy who's just a straight up complete champion human being. Every now and then you come across one of those in your life, and I've been fortunate for Barry to come into my life. He has been a long-time advocate and supporter of Carousel Trail, and we are extremely grateful for that. I'm also extremely grateful just to have him as a bit of a mentor. He's been a fantastic influence on me. He's a man I hold in the absolute highest regard. And I will now introduce Mr. Barry Du Bois.
Wow, Andrew, thank you very much. It's great just to listen again where Garage Sale Trail started. I mean, I remember those early days, so Saturdays and Sundays. It was just Saturday in the beginning around Bondi. It was a great way to get engaged with the community. And first and foremost, I thought that was amazing. But you're right, it's come a long way today. Until today, we've got over 500 registered participants in this webinar, which is amazing. I am super, super excited about the experts and the panel that we have on. I'm going to encourage everybody, if you've got a pad and paper, have it ready, because the KYAL Kara, Tim and Elena have got a wealth of knowledge in this area, and there's going to be some real wisdom shared here today. With that, mate, I'm clearly excited and super excited to be talking again and to be able to introduce my great friends, KYAL and Kara. Now, these guys, we first met them, or many of us first met them with their Series 8 of The Block. I know that's when I fell in love with them. I thought they were just amazing. Since then, they've renovated together as a team, over 35 renovations and homes. I'm very blessed to say that they joined us on The Living Room for some challenges, but also to help out. And I love working with these guys. I love riffing with these guys. And particularly KYAL, when I was going through some issues with health, straight on board at The Living Room to help out where I wasn't able to manage. There's a great photo of us there. We just a little shed together. Love that photo. And it's funny, I've had 2 bouts of cancer, and that one there I was struggling with coming off my second lot of chemotherapy. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate. It's one of the many reasons I'm so passionate about the built environment and sustainability, because the cleaner and more perfect our planet is, the easier it is for us to have good physical and mental well-being. So here it is, guys, say hello. Tell us what you've been up to lately, and why you're so passionate about Garage Sale Trail. I love those faces.
Hi, Baz. How you going?
Mate,
thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it's always good to jump on board and have a chat, Baz. It's been a while, and Andrew, we're so stoked to tag along for the garage sale again. I know we've been involved in the past and had such a great time, and we love the initiative. It's just a good Aussie way to delve into that secondhand community and share your things around.
It's really how we got into renovating in the first place. Kyle and I have been together since we were 16, and we used to love, we were in Newcastle at the time, going to furniture stores or to garage sales and finding all those old gems and making them new again, I guess, adding paint, sanding them back. And really that before and after process is really what got us into renovating, and that idea, let's buy a house and do this on a larger scale.
Yeah. And I think obviously, like Kara said, that's what kicked it off for us. We did start small. And if you're listening, that's how it could possibly start to you. Start small. Like Kara said, we just loved going shopping at all the secondhand building materials sites and things like that. We turned some old some old dressing tables into vanities for our bathroom and did some really quirky stuff. And it was really fun, and we got so much out of it. But it was really those before and afters, that satisfaction of turning that old thing into something beautiful and new and giving it a repurpose.
It's amazing, guys. And you're right. Creativity is something, if you start small, you build your confidence. It's what I love about it. It's an old gem into something new, or it's something that's had a life and you give it another life. Anyway, yep. You two are a power couple. There's no doubt about it. We're going to introduce the other members of our panel.
Yep. So from one power couple to another, I'm now going to introduce ELENA and Tim Silverwood. So Tim and ELENA have been renovating their 1980s home, which is located in the Northern Rivers, in a location where it's described, which they describe as where farmland meets suburbia, and doing it with the planet in mind. And really interestingly, as a part of how good you guys are at kind of telling your stories and bringing people along for your ride, you've been chronicling this on Instagram, which you can see at Frontera House. So a little bit about who ELENA is to start. ELENA is the founder of The New Future Folk, a marketing and PR agency that's focused on the businesses that are doing good. And her role in vocationally is to help grow and elevate those businesses. Her partner, Tim, who we've had the pleasure of crossing paths with through Garage Sale Trail, as well as ELENA, actually. Tim's an award-winning environmentalist. He became pretty alarmed at the plastic pollution that he was seeing in our oceans and wildlife, and co-founded Take 3 for the Sea back in 2009, which lots of you have probably heard of, and has gone on to do a bunch of ridiculous things. And since then, Tim is now involved in an equally powerful organisation, the Ocean Impact Organisation. And their mission is to support and accelerate ocean impact businesses. But what is so excellent, whilst that's the amazing stuff they do, they're not here today in that guise. They're here today in the guise of a couple of people who've left the city, set up on the Northern Rivers, and are undertaking that kind of daunting task of renovating and home improvement, and trying to do it in a way that allows them to live out their values around sustainability. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Really nice to be here.
Tell us a little bit about what you're up to, Tim and ELENA.
Yeah, well, as Andrew sort of introduced, we do have these values. We're both very passionate environmentalists, but we've never renovated before. We've been renters for the whole entirety of our relationship. So when COVID enabled us to look to the hills and put in place that move to the Northern Rivers, suddenly we had to sort of assess, well, we can't go and buy the perfect eco home. We don't have enough money to build from scratch. So where does that leave us? It leaves us with renovating a pretty old home that had plenty of problems and trying to do it as consciously as possible.
Yeah. Guys, I became a fan of yours early on. Some of the younger folk at Network 10 were huge fans of you, and they said to me, "You're going to love these guys with Take 3 for the Sea." Again, just a simple answer to a huge problem. Since then, I've been following it. It's quite amazing. You're doing incredible things. I love that you said that you were renters first and were keen to be homeowners and develop a property of your own. But renters can play a big part in this world of a more sustainable planet, and that should never be denied. But guys, you four have all worked together already, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, so we initially met Tim through the Take 3 for the Sea, which you know, like you said, Baz, it's such an amazing initiative, and we still, like, to this day, it's something that we do as a family, and our kids were brought up taking rubbish off the beach, and they still do it every time we're down there. Pick up a piece of rubbish. Look, Dad, Take 3 for the sea.
But Tim approached us a few years ago. I think it was 3.5 years ago when Take 3 had their first office in Long Jetty, and it was a bit of a dive, and he said, "I've got a challenge for you guys, and that's to renovate this office." We don't have any money, by the way, so let's just
dream brief.
Yeah. Dream brief. But we added some skylights into that center room, as you can see, which made the world of difference, you know, adding natural light. And we repurposed a lot of materials. We painted the kitchen, and I think we created a really special hub for the Take 3 team.
There were some things there that we obviously wanted to, you know, try and achieve and stick within that sustainability realm. And, you know, simply by removing the coating that was on the kitchen door fronts and painting those and putting some new handles on it, like we touched on before, Baz, about giving something that new lease on life. Like, you know, you could look at this before photo and literally it looks like it just wants to be ripped out and chucked in the bin, but then you look at the after photo and you're like, you know what, that's actually like really cool, totally livable, it looks nice, and it functions perfectly, especially for the Take 3 team.
Tim and Elena, what are they like as builders and designers? I mean, I know the answer to that, but I want to know your thoughts.
Yeah, it was just incredible. I mean, just the simple premise that they were so willing to muck in and help us at a really important stage of the Take 3 journey. And as they said, I mean, the space became so functional. Some of our greatest work is fulfilled in that space. So a really wonderful effort, but definitely got me very inspired by what you can do with a relatively small budget, but some really good creativity and some great skills.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
Kitchen is just amazing, like the before and after. I just couldn't believe that you made it look so beautiful, given what it was like before.
I think like a bit of the passion there too is we knew like Tim and Elena and the whole Take 3 team were going to be working out of this space, and like you said, Baz, about like, you know, having that, you know, some mental clarity. And I really believe like if your workplace is a nice environment to come into, you're gonna, you know, it's gonna bring out the best in people. So that was a bit of a, you know, something behind the incentive there to make it nice and make it a place where people felt relaxed and they enjoyed being in that area.
And the thing I loved most, it was the actual working day. Like we did it over a few days, and just the team, it was just like the old school working bee vibe. I loved it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I had my daughter strapped to my chest the whole day.
It was a real community vibe, wasn't it? I think we had probably, you know, upwards of 30 to 40 volunteers of people planting, painting. It was a real blitz.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, community is such a big part of sustainability and coming together. I can only imagine, Tim and Elena, as keen environmentalists, you must, watching this renovation occur, you must have just been overwhelmed with ways that you could bring sustainability into that picture. Because for Kyle and I, particularly as trained builders, we were taught a certain way to do things, and I've pointed out many times that we allow for 10% wastage. But as an environmentalist, you'd be probably thinking, why are we wasting this, or how can we reuse that? Is that right?
me personally, had a really tough time at the start of the renovation when we did start to pull walls down, and, you know, I was keeping everything aside, really motivated to try and find an avenue for it. And we did. I mean, we gave away this ancient kitchen that was falling down. Someone wanted it, just put it up on Facebook Marketplace for free, and someone comes along and takes it. But eventually the day came when I had to order that first skip in. And, you know, that was probably at that time when we really started to sit down and say, I was stressing out. I was stressing out about this dream of doing it to absolute perfection, which was not realistic. I was going to hurt my body and hurt my mental health in the process. And so Elena was actually really sort of pioneering and saying, look, we're going to have enough money to do it in a perfect way. We're going to hurt ourselves in the process. We need to get pragmatic here. And so we came up with this sort of realization that, you know, it's not about 1,000 people doing zero waste living perfectly. It's about 1 million people doing it imperfectly. So what's the best that we can do without breaking ourselves? And what did we come up with?
Yeah, so we came up with a bit of a rule of a 70-30 rule. And that gave us a little bit of a boundary of our decision making then. Like, which bucket is it going to be in, the 70% or the 30%?
So essentially 70% is really trying to meet those high tier values of businesses and materials that are really operating with the planet in mind. And 30% just accepting that we have to be pragmatic and survive this renovation in the process.
I took a video of Tim when we got the first tip, and it's on our Instagram, and Tim looks like he's crying.
I was broken.
It's pretty sad.
Renovating can break the best of us, Tim, don't worry. So that's a great challenge to set. I know there's an architect in Melbourne, I wish I could think of his name, but his challenge to the builder is to only have one skip. He said, you can have a big skip, but you can only have one skip. So and he challenges the builder, if you've got materials that you can't give away, let me see how I can utilize them within the project before they go on the skip. Guys, I've got a couple I'm going to jump into some questions. As I said, if you've got your paper and pen ready, some of these answers are going to just be things that you're going to want to keep forever. But we'll start out with you, Kyle and Kara. Why does it matter to you? Why is it important to you that we take care of the planet in the work that we do?
I guess the biggest reason for us is that we are parents and we want to leave a legacy for our children. We want them, you know, we look around, we are at the ocean, at the beach every day, and we want them to be able to enjoy what we're enjoying now. And so it's thinking about what we're using from a renovating and building point of view, and understanding the life cycle of these materials and where they're going to sit when our kids are 50 years old. It's thinking into the future for them.
Yeah, I'd also think like Kara said, we want to leave a legacy for the kids, but also I think like Baz and Tim, you guys will agree here about a culture change and embedding these cultures and these ideas into the kids while they're young about being resourceful and having a sustainability concept in mind, and looking after your own backyard, looking after where you live. And like you said, Baz, that flows on to looking after the ocean, looking after, you know, the land, so that, you know, our wildlife are all still around and we are creating essentially a better future.
Yeah, I'll take it back to what Tim said just a moment ago. And Elena said, we decided we didn't want a perfect building, but you've got to ask yourself, what is perfect? If there's waste, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect is something that has a clear balance of planet, the built environment, humanity, our personal, mental, and physical well-being. Guys, a little bit more technical, Kyle and Kara, you're great designers and builders. What are some of the little tips? How do you embed some of these sustainability methods into your builds?
Yeah, I think, you know, everyone these days has to build to a sustainability standard. That's what, if you've designed or built and you're listening, that's what your basics requirements are. So inside that is things like we have to put in certain energy rated appliances, solar power, water tanks to water your garden and use the grey water to help flush the toilets and things like that. So those sorts of guidelines, you know, are in place when you go through a job, and plans need to be submitted to council. So that helps with the basic sort of things. But we like to go a bit of a step further and think about the heating and cooling of the house and how we can do that without using any power, such as things like, you know, building with rag ceilings, having opening skylights to let the heat out, especially like in the bathrooms where they're, you know, a really like steamy place. And if you stay in the shower for ages, you end up having steam all through your bedroom too. But and the fan just, it's like, let's face it, those exhaust fans just can't keep up. But the thing is, if you've got a solar powered skylight that opens, all the steam runs straight out and you don't even have to have the fan on. So you're saving power there.
I guess, yeah, from the very beginning, it's thinking about the orientation. You know, if you are building from scratch, thinking about the orientation of the home. But if you're renovating, it could just be thinking about how you can open up that living space to the north and capture natural light, capture that, you know, that heat in the winter.
Yeah. Ventilation is a great one. I'm sure I've talked to you both about this in the past, but thinking about ventilation, not for the humans, but also for some of the white goods and amenities that we use within the house. People, you may be interested to know that one of the biggest consumers of power within the home is the refrigerator. It has a motor that has to run pretty constantly. It's a pretty big motor. So the airspace under a home in the subfloor, as we call it, it sits at a pretty constant temperature all year round, around 18 degrees. So if you can create ventilation near these industrial machines, in these mechanical machines, you're going to help reduce the friction in things like a washing machine or a refrigerator. And if you reduce the heat, reduce the friction, you reduce the electrical usage. And if you're reducing the use of electricity on the biggest thing in the house, you're saving yourself money simply by using, as Kara said earlier, some of the natural events that occur. Guys, is there a favorite material that you like to recycle in the construction of the building?
Look, I personally, and yourself too here, Baz, when we're building, you see so much that you can recycle, reuse. We never throw a length of timber away that's, you know, shorter than 450 that can be used for a noggin for part of a structural frame. There's things like, you know, concrete tiles off your roof. If you're listening and you're looking to do a re-roof, which a lot of people need to do an upgrade and get rid of their tiles, those concrete tiles or those terracotta tiles can go into a skip bin, and that skip bin goes and gets taken to a concrete recycle plant where they actually crush it, turn it into a road base, or you can actually bring it back to site and use it as a temporary driveway or under the slab for compaction. So there's lots of things that you can do within those builds.
Yeah, for me, and I'm interested, if you are considering not even a new build, but any sort of build, this is a good one for Tim and Elena, for anyone listening. I'm a big believer. I like to say that I was doing sustainability in the built environment before it was trendy, because quite frankly, 15 years ago, we didn't think about saving in the building world. But I was challenging my suppliers 20 years ago. For an example, the average house might have 20,000 bricks in it. Well, that's 20 tons of sand. That's 80 bags of cement. That's about 8,000 wall ties, if I'm correct, Kyle. Well, there's an opportunity to save money by really programming your deliveries. You might be able to have one ton truck at one stage, but then a 6-ton truck. And what that does is reduces the waste, because if it rains, you lose the sand, but it also reduces the amount of trucks that are on the road. And that's the beautiful thing about this conversation we're starting now. Little tiny things that we do can have a hit-on effect. What's it called? A knock-on effect right back. And planning for me is a big part of sustainability in building things. Have you found that, Tim and Elena? Is that something you do, or do you approach each project as it appears?
Yeah, look, I think what you're really touching on there, Baz, is there's this incredible opportunities for innovation and smarts to come into the game, right? And I think the starting point for this particular subject is this, well, what is the current state of play with the industry in Australia and around the world? And you've obviously seen it change a lot over that time. You know, as first-time renovators, we're sort of coming in and just getting a little peek under the rug and not really feeling that great about what we're seeing. So for us, you know, a big thing was, because we're mostly doing updates to what was here existing, is finding the tradespeople that actually get our values and are going to tolerate our expectations as well. So thankfully, we've been really fortunate. Not to say it's been easy, but we had to really persist and persevere with finding the right person who was essentially going to be, you know, rocking up in the driveway at 7 a.m. every day for a few months to help us get some works done. So that was a big part of it for us.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's amazing. Tell us about some of the innovations or personal innovations that you guys have come up with from the Frontiera project.
So many. I mean, I guess one of the ones we're most proud of is, you know, we had a real dilemma about what to do with the floors. They were mostly tiles, and very old 1980s pink tiles. There's a lot of pink in this house. And we looked at, I mean, that's a whole other story of trying to recycle those tiles. But essentially, we landed on, after about 3 months of deliberation, a salvage yard in Melbourne had rescued these beautiful oak timber floors from an old church. And we decided that, even though it was quite costly, that would be our flooring for the main area of the house. And we could not be happier. It grounds the house. They've got stories in every single strip of timber. You can still see the pews where they used to be, which I just think adds so much character. And it's really made the front of the house just sing, don't you think?
Yeah, it really has. And, you know, secondhand kitchen. But at the core of, I guess, this access to these materials is, and we're talking reuse here, right, with Garage Sale Trail, it has to be said that Facebook Marketplace has become the avenue to exchange goods in the sharing economy. You know, we started with keeping one eye on Gumtree, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there still using that, but just the sheer connection to your community who have stuff that either you need or want or you want to get rid of. It's just insane how that little technical tool has enabled us to do this with such a lower footprint than if we had have been going to traditional approaches.
And for people to understand that in the simplest form, think about this. Something is used in a community for 50 years. Within that community, it's picked up by someone else by hand and carried down the road and reused for another 50 years. It's not just zero impact. We're starting to reverse some of the damage that we've done for the last couple of 100 years.
I want to jump in here. Elena, Tim, I'd love to hear a little bit about those Facebook Marketplace exchanges. What are some of the kind of things that you've either bought or got rid of on Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah, gosh, there's just so many. And we sort of realized very early on that part of that story using our Instagram channel was profiling those exchanges, because you meet the most extraordinary people and you get the most extraordinary bargains. I'm not going to say it's easy though, right? You've got to be you've got to be on it. You've got to be quick. You've got to be like bolshy sometimes. If you're giving stuff away for free, you've got to tolerate messages coming in left, right, and center. Like, it's not always easy, but it is quite fun. You know, kitchen secondhand from a guy 10 minutes down the road, mentioned the floorboards, the stuff that we've given away. Like, it was really daggy. This house was called Bethany. It was a very grandma vibe house. And these light fixtures that, you know, anyone else would have just thrown them in the tip. We put them up on Marketplace for free. Some cool guy rocks up. He's just moved up from Melbourne, opening a bar in Coolangatta. He's like, these are perfect. And he was stoked. We had like the leftover offcuts of we've got the Tassie oak floors out the front from the old church. And I picked up some other secondhand cypress pine in the back, put it up on Marketplace with the offcuts. A guy was making native beehives, and apparently cypress pine's the best material for it. So now I'm getting all this, you know, beautiful context and stories and making friends along the way. It's just been awesome.
Yeah.
Something we take for granted is we say, oh, it's going to end up in landfill. Something that everybody should understand, to get something to landfill in the shape of a skip bin costs you about $700 a bin.
Yeah.
So it's worth taking those sometimes annoying messages and those interactions with people to save the money. Just on creativity, because I can only imagine the people participating in this webinar are just mad on creativity, and we've got 4 of the best in the business. But a friend of mine actually was able to recover a whole bunch of timbers from a bowling alley. Now, his intention was to do the whole house and the living room in the bowling alley timbers. As it happens, they only ended up with, in their opinion, the right boards for the hallway. And then they used other floorboards that were secondhand for other rooms. And it just added to what they were trying to do. The hallway seemed a natural place for the bowling alley. And his wife at first was really disappointed that they wouldn't be able to have the same timbers right through the house. But these journeys are that of discovery. And that's what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah, and the waste, we've been talking a little bit about waste because it's a natural byproduct. You can't avoid it in a renovation. And, with the work that I do, we're so focused on how do you reduce municipal waste? But the reality of it is, in Australia, municipal waste accounts for only 10% of the total waste we create, meaning 90% of the waste either comes from demolition and construction, which might be in a residential or commercial context, and industry. So that's where that's the lion's share of where this is all happening. I want to go back to your skip bin question, Elena and Tim, and the inner conflict around that. I can so relate to that. But how do the waste is a real thing. You can't avoid it. How do you, can you provide some guidance on how you do try to deal with your waste in a way that you consider responsible?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it comes down to that 70-30. Like we've taken every creative approach we could to minimize waste, and I would probably say that the giving away for free on one of those digital channels is probably the easiest. But then also just accepting, we had some termite damaged timber here. We had stinking, rotten old gyprock. We've redone 2 bathrooms. So there's been waste and it hurts a little bit. We do a lot of deep digging to find out what channels exist to get rid of stuff. But we were disappointed actually with tiles, because we thought tiles naturally could go and get recycled into a concrete or some sort of building aggregate. But the adhesives on the tiles, we couldn't find anyone in the area in a 50-kilometre radius that would take them. We found a few people who would take it and they were going to use it for, like you raised, Kyle, using it as access on muddy tracks and things. So some people took it that way, but then you kind of feel bad because those adhesives are now in the environment. So some things there isn't a perfect solution.
No, definitely not. Well, we call Tim the bin man in the house. So I don't really touch the rubbish at all.
I'm a bit particular.
Tim is the bin man.
I've got to say the panel's making it sound fun. This whole renovation journey is a lot of fun. Kyle, from a business point of view, what are some of the biggest challenges for you when you're taking on a new build? And is there anything that stands out for you that we could be, as a community, be doing better?
Yeah, Baz, absolutely. Like for our latest project, Kara and I, we're building a new duplex. So the site that we purchased had an old house on it. Now, we're pretty particular and we like to see things, go to recycling plants like we touched on. Our demolition crew pull the house apart piece by piece and take it to their recycle yard. And probably 80% of items out of this house, all the timber goes to the recycled timber yard. The windows all get recycled or sold. Like the only probably thing they get rid of is the fiber cement cladding, the old stuff. And I think it's also important for listeners to have a think about the skip bin situation. Not every skip bin facility just takes it straight to landfill. We use a company on the Central Coast here called EBH Environmental. So everything in those skip bins goes back to their facility out of Rimba here, and they tip it and they actually sort everything out before it goes to landfill. So they take all the metals out of it. They take all the timber out of it. all the concrete waste. So they've got a full recycle plant there. So we can, you know, put things in that skip bin, knowing confidently that it will get recycled what goes in there. So
I guess it comes down to what Tim was saying earlier. It's finding the right trades and subcontractors that are, you know, have the same values as you, as best you can. And that's hard. It's really hard these days.
It's hard, but it's a valuable thing. If we're supporting people that are supporting the benefit of the planet, we're all contributing. I'm going to put this question to everybody, but I'll start with you, Kara, because I know you do this amazingly. There's a lot of people listening and watching now that they want to get engaged. They want to do it. They're not going to build a house. They may be renters. What would be your favorite or one of your favorite reuse items? I mean, I know because I've seen some of the work you've done, turning dressing tables into vanities, turning chairs into shelves. Where does someone start? What's a project they can start and build some confidence? Have you got any tips there?
Well, Kyle and I love repurposing timber, and it's just one of those natural materials that just lives on and it tells a beautiful story. I guess one of our first upcycles was Kyle was working as an apprentice in Newcastle, working on a beautiful old home with timber weatherboards, and these were going to get taken to landfill, and we sanded these timber floorboard or weatherboards back and made this beautiful mirror that we still have in our house today. Again, like when I was at uni, I needed a desk, so I found this old, really what others would consider a hideous desk, sanded it back, and for years people would walk into our house and go, wow, where did you get that table from? So even if you're renting, there's so many ways you can explore the upcycling process and get creative and save money.
Explore is a great word to be used amongst this panel, because you're right. A great tool of exploration is the sandpaper. It could be a rusty piece of metal. It could be a desk. It could be a table or a pew from a church. Sand back some of the history and find some of the life that can live on forever.
Yeah, and you don't need to have too many skills to do that. I'm sitting around a panel with a bunch of experts thinking to myself, oh yeah, I've actually bought some chairs at a secondhand store, some fantastic 50s, 60s style chairs, got the sandpaper on them, revarnished them, had them rewebbed, and, you know, fast forward 20 years later, they're still a pride and joy in my dining room. So you don't have to be an expert to do it, I guess, is my message.
There's a question here I'm going to ask the panel, and then I'm going to follow up with something as well, is which is one of the more friendly carpets or hard floorings to use, and how do you find this sort of thing? How do you find things that you believe are sustainable and are environmentally friendly?
Yeah, well, you go, Carl. You go.
I was going to say, like on Tim and Elena's journey, they saw some timber from Melbourne, which has given their home like some beautiful and amazing character. We've got new flooring in our house, and some of the carpets that we've used are a wool carpet. So they're they're not a synthetic carpet. So there's no, plastic in those, so to speak.
I might jump in here and just give everybody some advice on bringing materials into your home. I've had some health journeys, hurdles to face. I've had cancer twice, and recovering from illness is a time in your life where you want the cleanest environment you can possibly have. I'm very conscious. I know I've spoken to Kyle and Kara about this often, about off-gassing. And you can guarantee anything that's been recycled has very minimum VOC, very minimum off-gassing. New products that you bring into your home, they leach and breathe the same air that we do. So these are things that need to be considered as well. A cheap carpet might be a dangerous carpet. So it's up to us to be responsible and understand what we're bringing into the built environment, because those products, those materials, they will share the same air that we have and our children have. And I think that's a really important philosophy to bring into any build, but particularly talks to the environment. of course, that leads me into this nice segue, Baz, by the way. Indoor plants. There is no better way to make a home have a sense of sustainability than bringing a tiny plant into a design that becomes a huge plant and gives us oxygen through the night. I mean, as designers and creatives, you must love the opportunity to work with the plants and things like that in your designs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's probably the thing that really took us with this particular property is, again, back to the aspect and also this fertile volcanic soil that comes from the big volcanic crater Wollumben, just 20 minutes away at Murwillumbah. And so we're already growing our own food. It is a jungle. One of the reasons that we went for Frontera House, because we are on that boundary between farmland, bushland and suburbia, which translates to snakes, a hell of a lot of spiders, a lot of cane toads, and you feel like you're constantly keeping the jungle at bay. But we'll take that. I mean, that's that connection to nature that, you know, really lights me up.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you go with the snakes though?
There are so many snakes in the house. You have no idea. There was a snake skin that we found when we were renovating the bathroom, which was probably 4 meters long.
So
Actually, we'll show you. It's pretty full on.
That's going to be a bit exciting for the psychology.
Well, I don't know about that. We definitely locked our doors. Here we go.
they say if you leave the snake skins around, then the mice won't be as much of a problem. So you just leave these lying around, there's never any mice anywhere.
That's
hectic.
huge.
Right.
Yeah. I was so keen to come up and see what you're doing. I've just cancelled all travel.
There'll be less holes in the wall in the next 2 months, so hopefully that'll be enough to leave them in the roof cavity and none in the actual house.
As people who aren't experienced renovators but prepared to have a go, something that I've seen a lot on your Instagram is your love of non-VOC paints and things like that, Tim and Elena. Talk to us about that final layer of the design, the paintwork, and how important it is to think about the environment with the materials that you're using, the paints, but also what they do to the air and also what happens to them once we're finished.
I'm personally really passionate about a very low, toxic home, and I have been for a really long time. So it's something it's a value for me personally. And so, obviously the paint and all the adhesives in every piece of building material, they carry a lot of chemicals, which, come into our body, like you were mentioning, Baz. So we were really conscious about those products that we brought in. So we ended up going with an Australian paint company called Tint, and they're 99.9% no VOCs, and it's got no smell as well. They're completely vegan, and it's such a beautiful product to work with. So we've been using that since we started painting, which was only about a month ago.
Been painting this morning, but yeah, you don't even really smell it. And I've been painting some trim all morning today. And back to your point about the floorboards and using something repurposed that has it's done its off-gassing, and that means when it comes into your home, it's basically kind of neutral. So we really got challenged by the kind of quick fire renovation that just throw down a polyvinyl chloride floating floor that is just going to off gas. And you just think, and even like the cheap carpets. I mean, one of the things that we're learning now on the plastic front is how much plastic is in our bodies, in our blood, in our organs. Yet we go and live and sleep and spend our days in these homes that are covered in synthetic materials, and we're walking around shuffling, running. It's a bit terrifying. So, it might even be that it costs you a little bit more, but you're looking at the long game. We're looking at this house for not just us, but for, generations to come. So we don't mind being the ones who have to dig deep to bring this up to a standard, because that is sustainability. That is building something well and building it to last.
I think that's a good point for listeners, because it can seem quite overwhelming and doom and gloom. And, I don't have enough money, but it's about, just to put it simply, understanding the life cycle of the materials that you're using, their potential impact on your health and the environment, and, using that as a framework to make each decision. And as you said, you can't be perfect. You'll go crazy trying to be. But if you have that thought at the forefront of your mind with each decision, just go from there, break it down, make it easy.
There's also the other things, the other benefits, like the character you get, and you get to bring in the stories, like Baz said, about the bowling alley down the hallway, then a different timber outside of that. I think if we can try and think outside all the sparkly, shiny new things and bring in something with character, it tells a certain story. And if you're the one that's in the position to be able to do that and make those selections and do that within your life, there's a certain amount of appreciation and job satisfaction in that too.
And from a styling point of view, I do find it a bit same when you're scrolling through Instagram and everything is looking shiny and new. And it's the things that stop me, the interiors that stop me, are the ones that have that soul and that character. And that comes from the secondhand materials, the secondhand furniture pieces. It's that layering and that storytelling.
Architecture is a beautiful thing. It's a great way to enter creativity. And what it can do is guide us through a property, but it can't start a conversation. It's the materials, it's the personality that you bring into the home that starts the conversations. I'll ask Elena just to re-mention, because a bunch of people are asking what was the brand of that low VOC paint. And low VOC is what is it called?
Volatile
Organic compound. There it is. And so when you paint a place, when you get in a new car and you smell that new car smell, that's killing you.
Yeah, exactly.
As someone who lives with cancer, those compounds are taking up space within the air we breathe. And as Tim has said, it's in the shape of tiny bits of plastic in the ocean. In the air, it's in organic compounds that we're breathing in. So to reduce those is so important. Would you mind repeating the brand of paint that you guys use up there?
Yeah, it's called Tint.
Tint. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the big brands, and both Kyle and I work with them, are offering a low VOC. And I just want to touch on this because I'm 62 years old, living with cancer with 10-year-old children. Now, my life, I'm a little different to some people, but my life is about ensuring the planet for my children, because I won't be here to look after them. It's that simple. Now, $1 or $10 or $1,000 extra now is going to make it easier for them to live in the future. We've spoken about skylights. We've spoken about paints. All these things are reducing the pressure that's on the planet. And the more pressure that's put on the planet, the harder it is going to be for the people that come after us to live. So the expense, if you look at it today, may be a percentage higher. But if you look at it as a holistic, broad picture, we are striving to make a more inexpensive planet, a more pure planet, and a planet that can thrive. That's what this is about. I'm just so in awe of you guys. I wish I had my time in over again to be able to do some of the things you're doing. I want to get from both you now just some principles, whether it's restoring a chair or taking on a new build. Give me the principles individually that you take on in every project.
I think for me, I mean, the conversation today really does seem to come back down to values and to voting with your wallet and to giving yourself the chance to be conscious. And that can be interpreted and executed in so many ways. So I just love to imagine that people that have participated in this are just thinking, okay, well, I can actually do that. You know, maybe I was going to choose this decision next week. I might actually just reconsider that, do a little bit of extra work and do it in a way that is benefiting me, my family, future generations, and the planet.
I think as well, research is really important. So researching those brands, they might look, you know, shiny and new, like you were saying, but, you know, really researching, are they certified? Are they on their journey of really keeping the planet in mind? You know, what's their supply chain? What's their supply chain methodology like? And I also think from an interior design point of view, it's really easy to pick up, you know, the big, gorgeous, glossy magazines and want to buy those things. But I think for me personally, I've been on this Pinterest mission of getting really inspired by international interiors and seeing how I can kind of make it work in my own way without spending that $5,000 on a coffee table, for instance, but trying to come up with innovative ways. So we needed an oversized coffee table because this house is huge. And as you know, most coffee tables are like 1.2 maybe maximum. So we just decided to buy a dining table and to chop the legs off really, really. And now it's like this Japanese kind of height, and it's awesome. It's covered in books and it just looks so cool. So yeah, I think it's an opportunity to be creative, like genuinely get into that creative headspace. It's really fun.
Love that you say that, Elena. Sorry, Kyle, I just have to tell you that we've got a coffee table that was Kyle's grandparents' dining table, and they did the same thing years ago and cut the legs off, and Kyle actually learnt to walk around it, and we still have it in our house. So
that's awesome.
Another story to tell.
Yeah.
I used to hide under that table when I was a little kid with my brother. There's all still little stickers under there that we put underneath it. Yeah. What's your, tip for the listeners about, things that they can do with styling and design?
I guess for me, it comes down to, in this day and age, everyone wants everything here and now. And it's okay for a renovation to take longer because you're saving up for quality over quantity. And yeah, if it means saving up that little bit longer to get those skylights to open up that north light into your house, then that's okay. It's a journey. And we've renovated and then sold, renovated and sold. And we've come to realize that for us, it's not even about living in a nice house. It's that journey and that satisfaction that comes with turning old into new, or, building from scratch. So it's okay. Like society tells us that we need it now, but it's okay for things to take time, go on that journey, save up that bit extra for quality.
Yeah. And I think personally, if you can be mindful of the things that you're designing with and how you're building, when it comes down to it, those finishes selections, like windows, for instance, I think like use the tools that we've got, like that are so readily available. Like Tim said, marketplace. You can go on there and search for a specific item and it can come up. And I would encourage you, if you're listening and you're doing a renovation and you haven't ordered windows yet, go on there, type in windows for sale, and you'll see a multitude of ads pop up of builders that have potentially ordered the wrong size. They're brand new. They're sitting there ready for a home. Beautiful windows that have come out of an older house, ready to go to a new home. There's things like that. And these things weren't available 10 years ago. You really had to look in the newspapers and scour around, or word of mouth. But like Tim said, we've just got access to all these points now. So if you can be resourceful and have it in the forefront of your mind, maybe you don't have to buy new. Go and check out what's out there already, ready to go. And then it is already there to go. You don't have to wait for windows. They're sitting there.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic holistic communal view. And this is what makes this conversation so amazing. I'm going to just touch on a couple of things that you've just said. Going through those glossy magazines, KYAL and Kara know, because I'm always saying this, what you're looking at is style projections of other people's lives. Create your life. And if your life is about protecting your family, your community, your planet, express that in your designs. There's another thing I want to touch on. We spoke about it early, and that is there are people within our businesses, within what we're doing, that are innovating for better designs. So if we support those, I know Slurry Tub is one that you can research online. There's a whole bunch of things that are being used to do things better. They're not getting support from the government. They need to get our support. And if researching and finding those things gives them support, we're building a movement, and that movement can start turning back some of the damage we've done. This has flown. It's been amazing. And I would encourage everyone to be following up with the questions that are coming in that we don't have time for now. Go to Tim and Elena's Instagram page, go to KYAL and Kara's Instagram page, and of course mine, and we'd all love to help you. What we're doing is creating a conversation around building a better planet. Now, it's only really just begun, but I'm so proud to be in this space with people that are really screaming it to the hills. And I want to congratulate Garage Sale Trail, Tim and Elena, Kyle and Kara, of course, for the amazing work you're doing. And I look forward to the next time we do this, and make sure the snakes are cleared out if I come up your way.
Thanks, Baz. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Kyle and Kara. It's been an incredible session with some great tips. I particularly got the things that have resonated for me. I really liked the comments around, you're going to get character when you go secondhand, which you just can't get from you. I thought that point that Elena and Tim made around, it's actually not a perfect world we live in, and it's not a perfect process. And you've got to compromise and you've got to work out, but having a structure to that, having that 70-30 structure to give you a framework so you don't go insane around trying to beat yourself up, and just do what is possible within that framework is such a fantastic thing. We have recorded today's session. So we will be we'll be sharing the recording with everyone who's registered. So feel free to share it with your friends, of course, or watch it back. The email will include details of all the panelists, that you can follow them and keep in touch with them in social media if you're not already. And if today's inspired you to want to get some secondhand floorboards or some secondhand doors or windows, there's always Garage Sale Trail. You can do that coming up over the next couple of weekends in November 12, 13, 19 and 20. And I have to say, we do see ridiculous things for sale, and where people are selling doors and are selling things from homes that are being pulled apart and rebuilt. So you can search for sales near you on the Garage Sale Trail website. But last but not least, we love feedback, and we're going to get better with feedback. So we would love some feedback on the session today. And if there's one thing we've all learned how to do over the last couple of years, it's use a QR code. If you scan this QR code, it'll take you to a survey where you can tell us what you think. And a link to the survey will also be included in the email we send you. So thanks again. I'd like to really, from the bottom of our hearts here, there's, whilst I'm on camera here, there's a bunch of people behind the scenes who make it all happen. Thank you very much to everyone on screen now. Virtual hugs to everyone. It's been a wonderful session. Yeah, that's it. And look forward to crossing paths with you all in the not too distant future.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for having us, guys.
See you guys. Take care.
See you. Bye.